Hi everyone, this is Adele from Your Healing Path and Soul Purpose Awakening, and I have with me Michele Dobb, who I have had the absolute pleasure of working with for quite some time. Relatively, we worked together for 8 months from March, late March, I think it was, end of March was the consultation call, and we started working together in April, and our last formal session was on the 18th of December. So that was 8 months all up, and you actually re-signed with me twice through that period.
That's right. There were many, when I first started with Adele, I had certain reasons for doing that because my life had become very stagnant and didn't feel in control. And then, interestingly, throughout the process, other things came up, and I was just speaking with Adele off camera. I think it was meant to be because I don't think I would have been able to I've had the strength to actually do what I did through that time without that support and validation that I got through learning more about myself and how to be myself. So it's been a fantastic experience.
Because you had quite a few key milestone moments, and if you don't mind my sharing them.
Not at all.
And just a bit of background for anyone who's watching, Michelle's father passed away a few years ago, and there's been a lot of issues around the will, and that's one of the focus points that we worked on quite a bit, issues around that. But one of the first things that I really do consider to be a milestone was you took the initiative to change lawyers that you were using at the time. And that was
right.
The result of actually working out that I want to say that you weren't actually being treated with respect by those people.
Exactly. And that's what have been considering, that even though people were there, they weren't actually there for me. They were there for their own reasons. And I didn't realise that enough. So it wasn't like there was nobody around, but the support I had wasn't actually the support that I needed. And so to make that decision was a very difficult one. It was traumatic. And when I changed over, then I thought everything would be fine. And of course it wasn't. It was difficult. And also the other aspect that we would discuss, that I was living with somebody else through that period of time. And that became really bad to the point where I didn't know what I was going to do. I was actually emotionally paralyzed, and we discussed that. And the calls that I had and the coaching I had with Adele enabled my real self to come out. At first, I didn't recognise it, and Adele would say, "Hey," and I would go, "What?" And then after about so many sessions, I would realise it almost at the same time.
Yeah.
And I could take that with me after the session to realise that I hadn't lost myself. It had gone missing, but it was still there.
Many moments that you actually overcame a lot of your past. And I think the thing that sticks in my mind quite a bit is how we progressively aged you.
Definitely.
We identified periods where you were,
the teenager.
Energetically behaving like, the child or the teenager, the different stages of development where
being protected by an older person, but then the protection turned into a toxic situation.
Yep.
And that I didn't want to come back to where I am now at my own house. I didn't want to come back, but I didn't want to stay there, and I couldn't leave. And it hadn't been a flash, but what I realised was that we had built it up so that I had internalized all this stuff, so that when I actually made the decision, it wasn't like it's a quick decision made on a reactionary basis. It was a response, but we had worked towards it.
That's huge.
And that was so important to realise that, no, it wasn't a flash decision. It was a considered decision, but it needed to happen. And I was surprised that I did it. And it doesn't mean everything. It doesn't mean everything is fixed, but it was just to show that I did have that strength, that I knew I did have it, but it had been submerged under. And the other thing I wanted to say was that I don't blame other people, in the sense that I was always part of the dynamic in everything that happened with the doctors, the lawyers, but I wore my vulnerability on my sleeve, and Adele and I did a lot of work at the beginning about the body and how you present yourself so that you don't get caught in that trap, or you don't overshare, and things that can help you to modify the way that you interact with other people that might not be actually helping you in the way that you would expect, and having a lack of validation that was helpful. And that's another thing, the validation that you gave me in terms of understanding and accepting how I felt, so that I needed that, because the only other validation I realised this was that I used to get if I achieved something, or if I did what other people wanted. But that's not really validation, that's just a pat on the back.
Absolutely. You took the words right out of my head.
Yeah.
It's like a pat on the head. Oh, good girl.
Yes. And I feel like I lost myself trying to do something. I felt a big obligation to, this is my father's will, because of a familial thing that also infected all other areas of my life. And I've even realised that even though it is a family member, I cannot sacrifice my own life for that. And
so important.
Absolutely, because I cannot fix something that is not within my control. So it's a matter of balancing that control element, over controlling, under controlling, and then you don't know where you are. And that's where I felt like was stagnant, and I had no sense of resoluteness about my goals or my needs or my aims. And the other thing was the self-care part too, that I hadn't even attended to. I didn't even think about it. And another thing I just want to say is the structure that actually I used to think was an imposition. I hated it. I thought that I don't want structure. I hate structure. And
I remember that session.
I know. It was so funny because I'd go, oh, it's so boring. I don't want to do that. And I realised that and that it offers you more freedom.
Absolutely. And I remember when you realised that, and I was like, oh!
I know, and it's those moments that sometimes took me, as I said, by surprise, because we were just talking and something would happen. And bear in mind, I was in a difficult situation then, where I felt like I couldn't even speak as freely as I wanted to, but I still managed to have these sessions with Adele without anybody else interfering. And I don't think they would have had the guts to anyway, I have to tell you the truth. And so
these days.
Exactly. And so that I could always have that with me. And that, to me, that is one of the most important things that I got out of it, because it revalidated myself. And also the fact that you were able to show me that some of the people that I had trusted implicitly, doctors, not so much the lawyers, friends, were not helpful in helping me deal with these issues. They might be able to have a casual conversation with, but they were not the people that I should be turning to.
I think the one that really does stick in my mind quite a lot, and again, I hope you don't mind me sharing this.
No, not at all.
You had spent, and this is always the mind bend for me, you'd spent 14 years with a mental health practitioner.
Yeah, a psychiatrist.
Throughout our time together.
Yeah.
You actually, I just want to kind of go over that process, because you didn't actually decide you didn't want to do it anymore. You did at one point, but you just wanted to stop going, and you stopped going and then addressed it and formally cancelled the services.
Yes, exactly. And I was seeing him once a week.
Yeah.
So he was the constant in my life. And one of the reasons that was perhaps not the reason, but because he didn't want me to change lawyers, and I became frightened of him. That was my own fear basis, because I operated from that level. But there were other reasons that you were able to bring out, that he was actually not allowing me to speak. He was still putting me in the child role, where not helping with this autonomy, which is what, when I came to see you, I felt like I'd lost my sense of autonomy, that I was just being bounced around and the I was not there anymore. I was just supposed to fulfill obligations, but also not be me, but be responsible for things. And that's kind of a cognitive dissonance or something.
Hi, bye, Beth.
Sorry.
That was Beth joining
Hi,
in.
Beth.
You.
I thought it was something on my side or something.
No.
I realised that.
What I also wanted to say about that is that just for anyone watching, I don't disagree with people seeking assistance for mental health and whatever.
No.
My concern, and I expressed that to you time and again, was that after 14 years, there should have been significant changes. And when we had those discussions, there was the acknowledgement that you hadn't experienced significant changes or growth through that.
And also, sorry to interrupt you, but remember we discussed the fact of the CPTSD and Stockholm syndrome. That is so crucial because that's sort of something that I've probably had for a long time. That was never addressed. I mean, I appreciate what he did for the medication that I have used, but that was many years ago.
And
but
the ongoing support and the stability that you...
definitely, the constancy, but not addressing that, which is something that needs to be addressed, because you need to be able to get on with your life, and having that and not having it acknowledged or worked upon. And he actually said to me, we won't be able to do anything until the will's completed. And he actually said the will might take forever, because he knew my brother as well. And I knew that wasn't something that I could do. I couldn't wait for everything. And having said that, I've realised there's two sorts of waiting. There's the waiting where you're waiting as the passive person for other people. There's a waiting that I did, waiting for this lawyer's letter that came 2 days ago, which is a different sort of waiting. The second waiting was based on what I wanted, and we talked about reaction versus response. Before Christmas, I reacted to their last letter, let it go over Christmas. My brother does this to people every time before Christmas, put something nasty in. I waited for them to write to me and got a response that I'm happy with, and any other response they've sent. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to get this finished quicker than, another 4 years, because actually my father died 6 years ago.
Wow.
The will's been going on for 4 years, and it was not a non-contestable will, 50-50. And it's just been a joke, and money's been wasted.
Definitely hoping that comes to resolution.
Oh, absolutely. It'll probably have to go to court, but at least it will be finalised by somebody independent from lawyers. That was great. So that's what I wanted to distinguish, because you know how we both talked about sometimes you have to wait for something to happen, but you have to wait if you're waiting for the right reasons. And I thought, I'm not going to ring them on the first day they come back to work. It's been about 3 weeks, and I get a letter from him.
Wow, that's huge, Michelle. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say, my neuroticism, but he just goes, hello, Michelle, hope you had a nice Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And I was not going to write anything about that. But when I do write back my short response, and Adele was very kind. She actually wrote some drafts for me that were so good for the lawyers, which really helped, because I would write.
Just legal background coming into play.
No, it was brilliant. Some of the letters that were things, so concision, actually, one I'll be using when I write back for this time. So those sort of things. And I think what the other thing was, apart from, we talked about the energy things that tended to come through the process, but also that you would keep me on target. And you know how we said we signed up again, you would only do that under certain conditions that I had to meet. And you were very strict about that. That's
what I was actually just about to touch on, because you've mentioned autonomy a few times, and we had done 2 lots of 12 sessions, and you wanted to continue, and that's when I kind of went, okay, but we're doing only 6.
6, yes, exactly.
Work. Now, what I actually want to share with everyone, I went back through my file notes, and I highlighted during the sessions, some of the statements that you made in those last 6 weeks, that to me were truly breaking given where you had started from in April. So I'm
Yes.
going to read those out. And
Lovely.
they're statements that you made during those sessions. And I get goosebumps here.
It's a lot of goosebump moments. I'm getting one now.
The first one that I think was actually session 1 in that 3rd round was, I've taken care of every overbearing, controlling man in my life this year.
Yeah.
And that to me was, and we're talking, there were a few of them there, and that was all stemming from, a lot of childhood issues. And you managed to do that within a 6-month period. You did that. I didn't do that for you. You did that. And
it's quite amazing when you look at it more objectively than I probably would normally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And they were people that were very, as you say, important to me, or they were my support system for long periods of time. They weren't just fly in, fly out people. They were people I've known for years.
The next bit that I giggle about, because we were talking about the different stages of childhood, we talked about it, and we kind of came to the conclusion. You actually said, I don't need to parent myself anymore. I need to adult myself.
Yes.
And following on from that, you went on to say it's now organic. It's not actually learning by rote, which to me, again, is the basis of why I do the kind of work that I do. So it's not hand-holding. It's allowing you to find your feet and find what works for you. So for you to...
That's what I love about that too, because the overall thing is that the necessity of having certain things in your life, but working out the way that works for you, and also the aspect that you can change it.
Yes.
That it's not set in stone, because, people react, or I react against things when they say, it's like that. But particularly that parent thing, because the parent is always the authoritarian role. The adult is the person who's responsible and also expects other people to be responsible and has rights. And that's a totally different role. Whereas before, the parent's just a very critical person. And so that was fantastic.
That was huge.
It's fantastic.
Now there was a few more, and I'll read these out, because they I love them. I used to be the kind of person who wanted everyone to like me. Now I just want to be who I am. The next one is, even when I don't feel great, I feel better. That's awesome.
Well, even like just before the thing came on, I was telling you about something that happened last night, and I felt awful, but I even knew by this morning that I was feeling better. Do you know what I mean? And that we both said sometimes it might take a few days to recover from a certain situation, but you also know that it's not forever. It's that you have those capabilities, and that
again, this is the ties in with the autonomy and the understanding of who you are, which is amazing. This one's a big one for you. For me, it's normal life, but this one's a big one.
Sure.
I've got the structure, and now I can get things done. Because that was a big you and I had about structure. But something...
And it was a bit of a red flag.
Kind of really,
it was one of those I was resistant to, not because of you, because of my background. So I'm thinking, nah, I hate this stuff. But it's opened up so much for me to have that. It's
whole stability of mind, body, coordination, all of that sort of thing. And as we mentioned so many times, that actually works beautifully for you if it's done in the way that sits comfortably with you, not your dad's way or someone else's way. You've got to work out how to do it for you. But when you do, you love it.
Exactly. And that's the other part where you said to me that about my brain, which, me being, I tend to put myself down a lot. You were saying your brain loves this. Your brain is energized by this. Your brain wants this. Your brain works when this is happening.
Yeah.
When you have those down periods when nothing's happening, that's when I can go to, my brain, and that was a really a huge revelation for me, because I think sometimes I've been called dumb a lot, people, you know, and it was to think, wow, that my brain has the ability to do things, and it needs to do things, and it is not driven. What's the word? I can't.
It likes doing it.
It likes it. It actually likes it, and then that propels the energy to keep moving, and for you to keep moving forward towards what you want and what you need. And that was really good, because you're probably the only person who's ever said anything like that to me about my brain. I mean, you know, so
I've told you
that's
more,
wonderful.
but I think you're highly intelligent, and it's
well, but even just using the brain in a way that's productive, and having that structure, and to break down that whole thing that was my dad's way, because that way I couldn't do things, and that's why
that kind of left you paralyzed. It was like, if I can't do it the way that Dad did, then I
can't do it at all. And that's what also the paralyzing aspect of the will, that I wasn't allowed to participate.
Yeah.
And now I got a bit upset with even the new lawyers, but I feel like now that they're not going to allow my brother to not allow me to participate. And I'm not blaming my brother, but it's just the whole family thing that of my dad. So to have the opportunity to be able to participate in a responsible way, it's that's all I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and that's great. So it all seems like, even though Christmas and that, but now, no, I feel like everything has changed so much. But one thing I just wanted to say is that doesn't mean that you don't have bad times.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like, oh, everything's fantastic every minute of every day, but it's the underlying sense that you will rebound. And the other thing is that I wanted to find a purpose when I came to see you, but I realised that it wasn't finding the purpose, it was finding myself first before I can find my purpose. And that's what I needed. So we've got that one done. So that's the next stage.
Oh my God.
The other way. It wasn't time for that. It was time to do the first thing first.
Yes.
And that was only through working with you that I realised that wasn't what I needed. It was to find myself.
Statement of the decade, Michele.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Oh God, no. But thank you. But that was the thing. That was the me that I thought maybe had died, and it hadn't died. And I know we talked about that too. But it was so suppressed that I thought it had died. And so that is, so then that's magical, isn't it? I mean, it is. I mean, that's what you go with your reasons and your purposes and things, but what comes out is what to me is what. Yeah, exactly. And being able to speak with somebody that you never felt uncomfortable with, or because I knew where you were coming from, and you know, when you say something like, yes, okay, we're having 6 weeks, I understood, because I understood because everything worked. And what I really love about Adele is when you work with Adele, the whole time you work, that whole period of time, not 1 second is wasted, not 1 second. Not 1 second. I've sat with psychiatrists where, you know, they'll go out and take 2 phone calls and do this and feed the dog, feed the cat, blah, blah, blah. It's fine to go and look after your pets and things, but do you know what I mean? I mean, it's energetic, and it's not tiring. When a couple of the calls afterwards, I'd have to sit there and go, wow, what did I just experience? You know, but it wasn't tiring, it wasn't exhausting, it wasn't draining, it was energizing. But that's an amazing thing for somebody to be able to do for that amount of time, and to always be almost, I'd say, 1 step ahead, knowing how to keep you on task or focused. Sometimes I know I would go off a bit, or I'd be resistant to things, and rather than being critical, you just bring me back to where I needed to be.
Well, there's no
And
point in criticism. There's
no,
it has
no,
effect on
but
anything.
no, but I still respect the fact that you would have the rules and that you were not going to take any crap. So people playing around or mucking around.
I was a little bit hard-ass in that last. That's okay.
No, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
I think that's important, because that's another boundary thing. It's another thing of people understanding,
yeah.
and it fulfills what a person needs. Like I never had one moment of feeling
That's really,
anything but
yeah,
happiness and respect and love for what we did and have done together. It's been brilliant.
I've got two more statements that you said.
Okay.
Before, it felt like I was performing. Now I'm just being myself. There is an awareness of inner strength. I thought it had died, but it hasn't.
Exactly, yes. And that's what I felt like I was.
Up so beautifully.
Not a performing seal just at the pillar to post. Now it's, and before I used to think that was selfish, and that ties in with the self-care. It's not selfish.
No,
because you can help others maybe later when you can understand that you need to do those things and be that. Otherwise, you really just facilitating nothing.
Yeah.
You just become it's such a waste. And feeling that obligation that you think you're helping somebody, even my brother, you're actually not helping the person that you might want to help, even if they can't help themselves. So that's just something that changes everything. But there is, I was trying to say, I had that relationship, and just so that people know that it's not as easy to get out of as you think. Some people will stay there for their whole lives, and it's devastating. And I still have difficulty disconnecting from that person because the relationship has this really strange dynamic. It's not like a normal breakup. It's really weird how it happens. So it's an ongoing process of dealing with the remnants of that. That's fine, because of making that decision to move was the catalyst for the whole big change of that part of it.
Yeah.
And now I've realised too, with the things with the lawyer, I'm not discussing that with other people, like Chris or anybody. I want to just do it from myself to somebody, so not going, oh, can you please help,
So this to me just all speaks of you truly having found this sense of autonomy coming back into your life, that you don't need someone else to look after you. It would be nice. We would all like that.
Oh, of course, and to have some care sometimes, but not all the time. I mean, at certain times. Whereas before, perhaps I wanted somebody to look after me, and this person was an older person, like be a father figure or something. Whereas that's not what I want, because then they take your whole life over. And I believe that I'm like you. I'm not the person who says that, like my psychiatrist said, I'm not being mean, but he said, you have to do everything, be totally independent. And we both said that's a bit unrealistic in the real world, but it's a slightly unrealistic.
This coming from a man who kept you going back for 14 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or did I say that?
No.
But all of that aside,
yes,
what I see in you today compared to quite literally 10 months ago now, because it was
that video, yes,
is just, it's actually difficult to put into words. So for me, those first few calls that we had, you were continually, to try and explain to people, Michele had this, it was almost like a nervous tick that you had going, and you were continually touching your face and mouth and ear, like there was this constant movement. And now, and you actually would, every second or third word, it was almost like you would throw in a cutting phrase through that to try and explain your behaviour or explain the wording. Or there was just, if I could sort of sum it up in one phrase, it would be you were just a ball of nervous, scared energy.
Exactly.
And afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid to do the wrong thing, scared that you were going to get into trouble. And the woman that I see sitting in front of me now, who's just articulated her 8-month journey, is someone who knows her own mind, and I'm going to say is about yay far away from not taking shit from anyone.
Can't wait for that day. And I know what you mean, because as I was saying, when we had some of the calls later on, when I would start to speak in the way that was appropriate for me, and I'd be on a roll, but it was a different role, and I was quite certain of where I was.
You actually
and
felt the difference in those conversations.
Oh, definitely. First of all, as I said, you had to you pointed it out to me. And then sometimes I'd be there and I'd just be saying what I wanted to say. It was wonderful. And putting it out there now into the world, okay, it's a bit harder, but
yes,
it's still the only place to come from. And particularly with I still maybe touch my face a bit, but when we talked through that and you explained a lot of that to me, made so much sense in terms of why I was doing it, and just being, like you say, a bundle of nerves with no actual
you were like a scared little child. It was,
and that's really, it's really. I feel sorry for. Okay, I feel empathy for that little child, which I've got. Part of my self-care is looking after the little child,
of course,
and that's part of the work that is ongoing, of course. But yes, it's. But some of those times when I just like that person too, which is really interesting, because I was thinking that I don't like to be sort of as vain and things like that. That's how I was brought up. But to be able to see somebody that you think is okay, despite what anyone else might think, it's really, really good.
Look, amazing results, Michele. And
I know, and Adele, as you know what I think of you, I think you're an amazing human being, and somebody that I was privileged to work with, and that you allowed me to work with you for an extended period of time, and that you understood the reasons that I needed that. And I can't thank you more than just to say thank you.
Actually, thank you for giving me the opportunity to help you. Because
I always knew that I wanted to work with you, but I did. Who was to know how it was going to pan out in respect of how we went through all those other things as well. And so, yes, and I hope that. Well, I wish you, every wonderful thing to happen with your further work, and
Thank you. Don't you go getting all emotional now.
I'm a sentimental person, but yes, and of course I'll be writing to you to say thank you as well. But
fine.
I hope other people will benefit from your work too in the present, because I tell you what, it's really changed my life in ways that I could never have imagined that this time last year.
I know. I love the results that you've had.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Michele. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I know that
it's a pleasure.
It can be quite confronting knowing that people end up finding about your personal life, but I always see that being willing to do this part of the process also is really putting that part of your life to bed, when you can actually speak about it, knowing that people are going to find out about it, and there's no concerns about that, because it becomes so much. Just yet again,
precisely
how much has happened for you, and that's just wonderful.
And also, even to add to that, before all this happened, one of my goals in life was to actually be an advocate for people who had problems when I used to do volunteer work. And so for me, that it's a good thing for that to happen, in terms of, a precursor to maybe what might happen in the future if I do work in the area, because I believe that don't have to keep things to myself about that, because
Yeah.
it's lovely to share, because I understand. I don't know what I mean. I understand other people are going through things too. Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Michele. Not just for doing the interview, but for choosing to work with me, and
absolutely, it was the best choice.
Amazing amount of progress that you've made, and obviously, we will be in touch.
Oh, absolutely. I haven't been on Facebook lately because I've just had a bit of a Facebook break, but I love your group.
It's okay. I get very jealous sometimes. I'd like to have a Facebook group.
I know.
Thank you so much, Michele.
Thank you, Adele. Thank
watch
you.
This. Feel free to comment. And if you want
Cheers.
to reach out to me,
I will. And can I say hi to Stores too, because she's been such a great support to me over the time too. She's somebody I really like and respect, but she's a wonderful human being. He's work with you too.
Michele. Mwah.
God bless. And
thanks.
see you.